Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm just going to try sharing my webcam now. I hope you can see my screen there. So I'm just going to try share my webcam. I believe you can see me. If you can, I think it's popping up now. Good morning, everyone. Thank you very, very much for joining this morning. If there's any technical issues, we are hoping the tech gods play along with us this morning. So our fingers are crossed. And as you can imagine, if there is anything that pops up, we just ask you to sort of forgive that. As you can imagine, there'd be a lot of businesses working from home from the moment, and CCIQ's office being one of them. So I'm battling with my own laptop at the moment. So without further ado, guys, I think we can sort of jump straight into it. So I can see there we've got just over 700 viewers at the moment, which is a fantastic turnout. It was discussed in a webinar that I attended last Friday. It's just sort of talking about the difference between the social distancing and the physical distancing at the moment. Obviously, small businesses at the moment are really, really feeling it. And so to get a sort of opportunity like this, to get all the business community together, I think it's a fantastic idea and a fantastic initiative by CCIQ, and one which I hope we'll be running more of. So without further ado, a bit of introduction from my end. So my name is Jack Baxter. So I'm an economic and policy advisor with the team at the Chamber of Commerce and Industry Queensland. And obviously, as you can imagine, there's been a lot of talk over the past couple of weeks, past couple of months, I should say, surrounding the coronavirus. Now, it's we were discussing the other day how quickly from a health issue. So it sort of, I remember hearing about it probably in December, early January. It sort of started off with that health issue in China. But over the past couple of months, especially in February, and obviously the month that we're in now, is how quickly that's turned into an economic event. So especially an economic event for small business. So we've seen obviously a lot of industries such as the retail industry or the tourism industry or the hotels and events, they have been severely impacted by this event. And that's why we're all here today, I'm sure, because obviously as a small business community, we need to know how we can keep the lights on and how we can keep our staff employed, because as a small business, our staff are like our family. So where we can avoid laying them off, we obviously are going to be trying to do that. So CCIQ is an organisation, so we have been receiving and sharing daily updates from the state and federal governments, obviously as this event escalates, and obviously as much as we can, we try to keep you guys in the loop. So I'd encourage you, if you haven't already, jump onto the CCIQ website. We have a specific link available for the coronavirus. It is an information source, so please jump on, use it, and if there's anything you think we're missing, let us know. So as far as the structure today, so obviously we're all here to hear about what stimulus measures are available. So we're going to start off with the state government stimulus, and I'm very, very pleased to announce, I'm sure everyone would have seen that come through the email, that we actually have the Honourable Shannon Fentiman joining us this morning, and she's going to run us through firsthand, obviously, what is being done from the state level to obviously get that stimulus into our small business community. And after that, we'll run on to the federal stimulus package and then on to what our local governments are doing. Now, at the end of each section, we are going to be holding a question and answers. So please, if you have any questions while I'm speaking, include them in the chat box. I believe it's located in the bottom right-hand side of your screen, and they will be being fed through to myself as well. So at the end of each session, we'll pass it on to myself, and I'll ask or I'll answer the questions as they show up. So without further ado, I want to introduce the Honourable Shannon Fentiman, as I said. Now, Shannon Fentiman is the Minister for Small Business, small business, and also employment and small business, and also the Minister for Training and Skills Development. Now, as I said, she's here today to discuss the state level stimulus, which is available for the small business community. So without further ado, I'll hand over the mic, and like I said, I hope the tech gods will play in our favour today. So we'll see if Shannon Fentiman can join us.
Hi, Jack. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. How are you going this morning?
Good, thank you. And can I just acknowledge all of the small business owners on the webinar today? I know how tough it is right now. Can I also thank CCIQ for all the wonderful work they're doing to try and get information and support out to small businesses. I know CCIQ has been inundated, as has our small business call centre, and certainly, you know, this is the toughest challenge to our health system and our economy that we've ever faced. And supporting our small businesses right now is so important. Our small businesses will be at the front line of kickstarting our economy, keeping Queenslanders in work. But right now, we have to help you to survive and stay in business where we can. So today, the Premier and the Treasurer are announcing our next stage of stimulus. It's a $4 million package which covers health, support for households and businesses. It's a $2.5 billion business support package, and that's on top of our $500 million interest-free loans. So across the state, it's $3 billion in business support. The first part of this package, which I know many of you have been calling for, and I know CCIQ has had a campaign, is payroll tax. So we are giving businesses a 2-month refund of payroll tax, which is an average of nearly $9,000 cash. And we're also giving a 3-month payroll tax holiday. And after that, you still have access to 6 months payroll tax deferral. So that's for small and medium businesses. Large businesses will also be eligible for the 2-month payroll tax refund and have the rest of the year deferred. We know cash flow is absolutely critical right now, which is why we have listened. And again, thank you for all your advocacy. Thank you for getting in touch with my department. Payroll tax now, most businesses, small, medium and large, won't be paying payroll tax this year because we want you to have that cash flow, as Jack said, to keep the lights on and keep people employed. Any business who rents from a state government for your premises will get rent relief. We're also giving small and medium businesses a $500 rebate on your power bill, and households will be getting a rebate as well. In terms of liquor licensing, we're waiving liquor licensing fees for venues that have had to close their doors as a result of the announcements yesterday. And the Office of Liquor and Gaming is allowing licensed restaurants and cafes who hold a current liquor license to supply takeaway alcohol via delivery where there is food. So that, I think, is a very sensible, common sense measure that will help our hospitality industry transition to a takeaway and delivery service. And we also have a workers assistance package. So it's a $500 million package to assist those employees who have lost their jobs. So we're setting up a task force across government. The idea is those employees that have skills we need in our essential services where there will be more jobs required, we will match them up and transfer them over to jobs. For those who aren't ready to transfer immediately, there will be money available for them to upskill and reskill online to try and plug some of those holes in the labour market, because we know that there are critical industries, obviously healthcare, social assistance, but food delivery, logistics, agriculture, transport, cleaning. We're going to need people in these industries to keep our economy going. So there will be also a package for small business training online to help you build your skills while business may not be coming through the door as quickly. And in terms of accessing all of this support, we will have a portal go live for businesses to apply for payroll tax relief. We want to make this as simple as possible. We'll be communicating through our social media channels, working with CCIQ to get the messages out. And the Business Queensland website is a great central point to access all the support that's available. We're also putting up support that's available through the federal government on that website. So it is a really good central port of call for you to get information about what help is available. We've already had almost 8,000 businesses express interest for our interest-free loan facilities. And in the next few days, we'll be launching an easy-to-use online application form. Again, I know how critical cash flow is. We want to make this as simple as possible. So the Premier and the Deputy Premier will be announcing these suite of measures in the next half an hour or so. It really is designed to make sure you can keep your lights on and your doors open if possible. And we know that many businesses will have to transition to a different way of working over the next few months, and we're here to help. Our small business hotline is a fantastic place to talk one-on-one with business mentors and small business support. So I would encourage you to ring our hotline, get online through the Business Queensland website, or work through CCIQ. we've given CCIQ some additional resources to scale up their call centre and support as well. Jack, so that's an overview of the measures we're announcing today, and of course I'm happy to be involved in a Q&A later in the webinar.
Thank you very much, Shannon. And look, obviously, as a small business community, I'm sure I speak for everyone that's attending this morning. We appreciate the assistance, and it's especially, like I said, targeting cash flow, targeting industries at risk. A couple of notes that I took down: employee packages for transfer. So we put out a survey to our members, and it asked them specifically to the small business community. These are traditional stimulus measures, but what else? What other avenues exist? And I think you've ticked off on those quite well, and especially the one-on-one hotline. I just want to emphasize that to the community that's attending this morning. Like I said, yes, there's physical distancing, but we need to be staying social. So whether or not it's through the state government hotline or through CCIQ's hotline, if you are facing financial stress, please get in contact. We urge you. So yes, so like I said, thank you again, Minister Fentiman. And if you are fine, would you be all right for us to jump into some questions now?
Yeah,
I can see a couple of
Jack.
questions flying through. Perfect. So bear with me. I'm just going to pull them up here. And thank you for everyone for participating in this. We'll try to get to as many as possible. So the first question, Minister, is here. So it is, and again, it's an anonymous question. I can't see who sent it through, but the question is, how do we access payroll tax refunds and deferrals?
Yeah, that's a great question. So a portal will go live in the next couple of days where people can make an application for their payroll tax refund and holiday. So that will go live through the Queensland Business website. So please keep an eye on that, but we'll make sure as soon as that does go live, our social media, and we'll work with CCIQ to let you know, so you can jump on and make an application online very quickly.
Fantastic, and I'll stress that again, that any information that comes through, as Minister Fentiman said, CCIQ will be staying on top of it, and we will try to share it through, or we will share it through as well. So the second question here is, what is the threshold for a big business? So there's a lot of talk about small business. What about the larger employers that are out there in the market at the moment?
Yep, so for businesses with a payroll below $6.5 million, there will be a refund for 2 months payroll tax for November and December last year. For businesses above $6.5 million, the refund of 2 months payroll tax will be for January and February of this year. So we're saying big business is anyone with payroll tax threshold above 6.5 million. So they'll still be eligible for the 2-month refund and the 6-month deferral, but it's small and medium businesses with a smaller tax payroll tax under 6.5 that will also get the 3-month holiday.
That's great. And on the topic of that, Minister, so when we're talking about the smaller business now, especially with the micro businesses, so some businesses mightn't pay payroll tax. Is there other sort of stimulus which exists to assist those micro businesses?
Yeah, so look, in the first instance, sole traders or micro businesses should call the hotline for, one-on-one case management and support, business mentoring to help them transition their business. But also the federal government did announce measures to allow sole traders or micro businesses to keep their business running and try and get what business they can, but they'll also then be eligible for the additional job seeker allowance through Centrelink. There'll be that sort of safety net, if you like, for our micro businesses and sole traders, but there'll be no mutual obligation on them to report how much money their business is going. So the idea is keep going, keep running your business, do what you can, but if you need that safety net, the federal government is providing that. But as I said, we have access to financial counselling, we have business mentors available to help as well.
Perfect. And just another question. So on the topic of that hotline, so do you have the hotline number available at the moment?
I do.
To share with the audience?
Yep, the small business hotline is 1300 654 687. 1300 654 687.
Perfect. And those numbers as well, just to the audience, that will be posted on CCIQ's website as well. And just another question, I think it's a question which I've seen a lot of over the past couple of weeks through our advocacy efforts, and it's talking about time. So a lot of businesses talk about time as being the biggest factor. So obviously they have just recently experienced these slowdowns in revenues, but as the revenues slow down, obviously the fees are still coming in the door. So as far as time, so how long will it be until those concessional loans which have been announced will become available for the small and medium-sized business community?
Yep, again, it's a really good question, and we know you need this money ASAP. There will be an easy online application form in the next few days so that we can get you those dollars as soon as possible. So again, we're trying to make it as easy as possible. We're making it so that you can apply online and we'll get you those no interest loans. So again, please stay tuned to all of our communication channels online and through CCIQ. And as soon as it goes live, we will let you know.
And that is being provided by QRider. Am I correct in saying that?
Absolutely. And we've got Treasury and some small business advisors through my department working with QRider to make this as easy as possible for small business. We've had some experience working with QRider to provide this kind of support to small businesses through the work we've done in Townsville following natural disasters. So we're keen to make sure all of those learnings happen now so we can make this easy and QRider understands the needs of small businesses.
Yeah, and that's a great point you raise. I think there was a couple of sort of rural businesses following the floods that did struggle with those. And on the topic of that, we probably brings up a good point that in these times of stress, and I'm sure you would agree with me, Minister Fentiman, that it is important to speak to any professional service providers that you have access to. So be it your lending manager or be it an accountant or a counsellor, please reach out. They're always happy to help. And just
Absolutely.
another question, yeah. So just a question here as well. So you mentioned assistance for online training. So what will this involve and include? Is there any specific skills which are being targeted at the moment, or is it going to be a sort of industry-specific training that you're targeting?
Well, we'll be consulting in the next few days with industry peak bodies about the sorts of training that we think small businesses might want to access in this time where it is quieter. There is no better time to upskill and build your capability so that when the economy starts to recover, you're in a really strong position. So that's all being worked out right now. We'll be obviously talking with CCIQ and your members about the sorts of things they need now and the sorts of things they might be needing in 6 months' time so we can design something that works for them. But it will all be available online and it will be designed to help small business transition through these next tough 6 months, but also to then build up hopefully in the recovery, because small business will be absolutely critical in the rebuilding phase. So whatever we can do now to support you to transition to a different way of working, to keep your doors open and then help you to build capacity and capability during the upswing, that's what we're going to be focusing on with our training.
Absolutely, and it's probably a case of taking the opportunity where possible, as you mentioned, to upskill, because when we talk about the volume of small businesses, they're very, very high in Queensland. And in fact, I think the recent count was more than 445,000 small businesses. So if we can really work on upskilling and retraining those businesses, I think it will push Queensland in the positive direction, as you mentioned, in the recovery stage. And another question here, so with regards to the power bill rebate that was mentioned, is there something that businesses will have to do to apply for this, or will it automatically be applied to the next energy bill?
It will automatically be applied to your next energy bill. So businesses and homeowners will be getting this added to your bill. So we're keen to get this out again. It will depend on when your next bill is due, but we're very, very keen to automatically have this rebate on your electricity bill.
Great. And just moving forward here, sorry, the questions are coming through nice and fast here, so I appreciate everyone leaving questions in the chat box. So another question is the Queensland government working with AusPost and other logistics firms to ensure that supply chains are managed wherever possible to support ongoing activity?
Yes, look, we are, and the Premier has tasked Minister Cameron Dick to really focus on supply chains across Queensland, working with his interstate colleagues. So there is a whole lot of work being done on making sure We can, obviously keep freight and logistics happening to work with supply chains. He's also doing a whole lot of work in supply chains around manufacturing to make sure we've got local manufacturing happening for PPE, for hand sanitizer, all of those things we're going to need in the health response to get us through the next 6 months. So supply chains is a really critical part of the economy, and Minister Dick, who's the Minister for State Development, is leading that piece of work across government.
Fantastic. And just touching on the concessional loans again, so there's a lot of interest surrounding the concessional loans. Can you just clear up a little bit? So I understand the concessional loans will be up to $250,000 and that they will be interest free. Can you just confirm how the approval will be worked as far as accessing the sort of $250,000 loan, and just confirm to the audience how long that interest free period will be existing for?
Yep. So it is interest free for 12 months, and then it will work very similarly to how it's worked with some of the rural interest-free loans. You can then apply to continue, repayment holidays or extend interest-free periods. So, it will be flexible depending on the needs of the business once you get through that 12-month period. In terms of the online application, as I said, the portal is being designed as we speak and should go live in the next few days. It is designed to be as simple as possible. You will just need to let us know that you have been affected in some way. So whether, that's through your cash flow or whatever it is, I think it will be pretty easy test for most businesses right now to meet.
Great. And so just moving on, so what about small businesses is a question here that trade as a company but are under the payroll thresholds? Is there any stimulus that will be available for those businesses? So perhaps which employ casual staff?
Yeah, so obviously those businesses who do not pay any payroll tax at all will still have, obviously, retail rent relief. If they do have premises they rent from us, they will have the electricity rebates. They will have access to the one-on-one mentoring and financial counselling on all of the reforms we're making to liquor licensing. And also the federal government, I know, does have some support available in providing support to businesses who have employees that are struggling. So when we talk about the package available from the federal government, there is some support there for wages, but otherwise it's all the other initiatives that we're announcing today, as well as the mentoring and financial counselling that were part of one of our earlier packages.
Fantastic. So I think a key point takeaway from that is that obviously your micro businesses aren't being left out in this stimulus package, that there will be stimulus reaching those much smaller employees as compared to your medium and large businesses.
Yeah, absolutely.
And a question here is, so for businesses that rent from private landlords, so I imagine this will be very prominent in the retail industry, but has the state government provided any suggestions for these cases, or how landlords can provide assistance to their renters, whether or not it's through sort of passing on cost savings or something similar?
Yeah, it's a really good question, and I know it has actually come up at the National Cabinet Committee about, working with the private sector so that they provide some rent relief. So that's why I think it's really important that government leads the way and sets an example and says, we're going to provide rent relief to our tenants, and we expect, shopping centre owners and the like to do the same. So there has been discussions with my ministerial colleagues, and I know there has been discussions at that national level. We are strongly encouraging landlords to provide rent relief, because really, if getting rid of their tenants right now, they're not going to get anyone else moving in, are they? So it's in their best interests to keep their tenants going and keep their tenants' lights on, so that, again, when we have the economic recovery, everyone's in a strong position. So we're really, we have that message loud and clear that we expect other landlords to follow the government's example.
Yes, so almost on a sort of help us help you sort of basis. That's fantastic.
Yep.
So another question here, which has been another hotly talked about topic. So we've noticed that the terminology has changed. So currently it's the payroll tax holiday. Can you just confirm if this is going to be the same as the existing payroll tax deferral, or are there different offerings?
Yeah, sorry, it is a little bit confusing, but essentially we are giving a 2-month refund of payroll tax to all businesses. For small and medium businesses, we are giving a 3-month holiday. And then for all businesses, there's also a 6-month deferral. So in essence, most small and medium businesses won't be paying payroll tax this year, and big business won't be paying payroll tax for 8 months. So it's a good package. It involves refunds, a 3-month holiday, and then a 6-month deferral.
Great. So I think that's nice and clear for the attendees attending today. And we'll probably stick this to the last question. So it's a question regarding Small Business Month, which I understand is something which your body looks after specifically. So has there been any discussion on whether or not this business month will be going ahead in May, or is it being cancelled given the sort of physical distancing discussion?
Yeah, look, we're having all those discussions now. I mean, my view, and again, no decision has been made, is that it's probably a really wonderful time to try and encourage the community to still support small business. So hashtag support small, hashtag, we want people to be buying local. So we're going to have those discussions in conjunction with small businesses, CCIQ and others about the best way we can use Small Business Month. I mean, obviously the focus will be on keeping small businesses going during this tough time. So there will be a huge shift in the sorts of, there's not going to be any, networking events or big gatherings, obviously, because of social distancing. But I do think it is an opportunity to continue to get messages out about the support that's available, to hear from small businesses about what they need, and also to encourage the community, to make sure they're getting takeaway a couple of times a week, making sure they're visiting their local, corner store, making sure that we continue to support businesses where we can.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree with that more. I think it's an initiative which CCIQ has been running, as well as trying to get internally, obviously in a safe manner, trying to get their staff to obviously support the small business community as much as possible. So yeah, we do appreciate it. Well, Minister Fentiman, I think we'll leave that as the questions, and I just want to thank you for joining us this morning. And I want to reiterate, at the moment we have just under 1,000 people in this conversation this morning. So obviously CCIQ being the peak industry representative, we do appreciate your time, and we appreciate the answers which you have given as well. So I do appreciate it.
Thank you, Jack, and a huge thank you to the businesses. And look, please stay in touch. We are happy to hear from you about what more we can do. And Jack, clearly, if this is useful, I'm happy to make myself available for webinars and Q&As if your members, are finding this useful and a great way to get information across.
Most certainly, and I think we might be holding to you that, I'm sure, in the next coming months.
Thank you.
Too easy. Appreciate your time. Fantastic. So that was, as I mentioned, so that was Honourable Honourable Shannon Fentiman. So I think some of the key takeaways I took out is that they are listening to small business, so that they are targeting cash flows, they are targeting industries at risk, and they are taking the opportunity to boost skills as well. So we will be keeping an eye on, like I said, I'm sure that as the months evolve, whether or not this situation improves or whether or not it worsens, I'm sure there will be further announcements by all arms of government. And as that happens, we'll definitely be taking Minister Fentiman or any other ministers that want to speak to us for that matter to join us in these forums to discuss that. So again, I just want to thank everyone. Like I said, we do have just under 1,000 people. So I'm picturing a very large audience in front of me, but I do appreciate it. So I thought we'll move on now. So as far as the structure, so we'll move away from the state government stimulus now, and we'll actually move into the federal government stimulus. So bear with me, I'm just gonna switch over the screen here. So I hope you guys can all see the screen there and still see my webcam. But essentially with the federal government, so very, very similar to the state, they have listened to small business community. So they are targeting cash flow injections for small and medium-sized enterprises. And more importantly, when we talk about the employment issues for small businesses, especially with the construction industry being one of the largest industries for small businesses in the state, they have also been providing apprentice wage subsidies as well. And now, obviously, similar to the concessional loans, there has been recent announcement for a loan guarantee scheme, and also some special funding for sectors at risk. So we'll discuss that in detail as we move on. I do apologise, I'll just skip back the slides. So we'll start off here. So the first stimulus measure implemented by the federal government has been a cash flow stimulus targeting small and medium-sized businesses that employ staff, and it's going to be provided by the Australian Tax Office. And I just want to iterate. So on the left-hand side of the screen there, I've got some important notes. So there is some very complex calculations to this, but I just want to reassure that it is automatically calculated by the ATO. So all that needs to be done from your end is to lodge your business activity statement, and then everything else will be sorted. So any sort of benefit which your company will be receiving will be credited into your ATO account. And another important fact there is that the absolute minimum that your business will receive between the current quarter and the end of the September quarter is $20,000. Now that includes even if you're a small employer and you do not have to withhold tax. So if you hold, for example, there was an example on the website, if you hire 2 casual staffs and didn't have to withhold tax, you will still receive that benefit. So you'll receive $10,000 in the initial payment between the current quarter and the end of the June quarter. And then there is also an additional payment which is calculated and provided at the end of the June and September quarter there. So I just want to reiterate that between those quarters, if you employ staff, the minimum amount of money which you'll receive in your ATO account is $20,000. And obviously this will scale up for your larger businesses to $100,000 over that period. So I just want to reiterate, so as far as the eligibility, so that is available for all employing businesses between the 12th of March, so with annual revenues below $50 million. And there was a recent exception made for charities. Now, as you can imagine, in these times of crisis, there have been other sort of charities set up to assist in these matters. So if there was a charity set up, if there's any charities in the attendees list, you will be eligible for this as well if you're established after that date. So I've got some dates there. I just want to reiterate to everyone that all of this information will be provided to everyone. So there's no point having to rush down and scribble down any notes. It will all be provided. And I just want to reiterate that it is definitely automatically calculated by the tax office. So moving forward, we have the apprentice wage subsidies, as I just touched on earlier. So like I said, construction industry is a massive small business industry. It's one of the largest, in fact, in Queensland. So for anyone who obviously has employed an eligible apprentice or trainee before there's the eligibility criteria. So they have to have been training within your business before the 1st of March this year. So you will be eligible for a maximum $7,000 payment per quarter per eligible apprentice or trainee for the rest. So obviously between April the 1st and the 31st of December. Now, this does require a bit of action from your business. So it's pretty simple. So all you have to do, so on the left-hand side of my screen there, I've included, again, under the important notes. So you will have to contact your relevant contact via the Australian Apprentice Support Network. So I've listed a link for the website there. So the link, so when you follow that link, it'll come up. All you have to do from there is enter the postcode of your business, and it will come up with a specific contact detail for you to reach out with, and they will assist you from there. So we'll move forward. I'm just being mindful of time here, guys. I understand that your time is very valuable. So if there's any important information that you would like me to come back to, by all means, I can touch on those in the question and answers section. So we have some other stimulus being provided by the federal government as well. So there is a lending scheme, a little bit dissimilar from the state government lending scheme. So this is being provided via the federal government. So it's provision of loans up to $250,000, and they are being made available through non-bank lenders. I just want to specify that, so it's not bank lenders. And when we say the difference between non-bank and banks, essentially a non-bank is any financial lender which is not able to take deposits off of its customer base. So I think a couple of examples, and again, I'm not in this industry, but a couple of examples that come to my mind are the likes of Latitude or Liberty or the like, but there hasn't been a full list being made available yet, and I'm sure there will be a list coming in the future. So essentially how this works, and we don't want to get stuck in the detail too much, but the government is guaranteeing 50% of those loans for small businesses, and it's specifically targeting if your business needs working capital assistance. That's what it's really targeting. And obviously business investment as well. So trying to get those productive assets back into the economy. So this will be made available for all non-bank lenders, so all customers of non-bank lenders who turn over less than $50 million again. Now, moving forward, there is further funding for affected regions and communities. So this payment, so it's a bit of a sort of a fund at the moment for $1 billion has been set aside, and that's obviously, like I said, to provide assistance to the people or the communities that have been hit most by this COVID event. And now, as far as the division of those funds, we're not sure exactly at the moment, but that will be made available in the coming sort of days, weeks, months, etc. So the few industries which have been listed, and I don't think there'll be anyone who disagrees with the fact that these three industries are amongst, and I don't say they are the most, they are amongst the most impacted industries, and that includes all those industries with exposures to tourism, agriculture, and education. So we'll jump forward again. So we also have so that was the cash flow. So we previously touched on the cash flow stimulus. There is also various taxation benefits which are being made available for small and medium-sized businesses as well. Now, again, I don't want to get stuck in the detail when I talk through these, but it's another case of in these situations, I would urge all of the small and medium-sized businesses out there to get in contact with your professional service providers. And in this case, it's going to be your accountant. And we know that like all other industries or some industries are going to be inundated at the moment with sort of calls for support for their business community. But I think especially when we talk about the taxation benefits and how you can benefit your company through the structures which are made available, definitely reach out to your accountant. They'll be at the forefront of this. So we'll start off with the instant asset write-off. So essentially announced by the federal government, the instant asset write-off has been increased to $150,000 threshold. So it was previously at $30,000. It is now up to $150,000. And essentially the benefit for this is it allows your business to claim 100% of the depreciation value of assets costing less than $150,000. It's a bit of a mouthful. And again, I'm sure the business community would understand that they've probably used this instant asset write-off before in the previous financial years. But again, reach out to your accountant. They will know if this benefits your business and they will help you on how to work that out. And I just want to make sure, so this is available so another extension here for the eligibility criteria is that it's now available for businesses turning over or up to revenues to $500 million. So it's really touching on those small and medium size or perhaps even larger industries as well. And that applies for new and second-hand assets. So whether or not you buy, it could be a new tradie Hilux, for example, if you're a construction industry, or whether or not that was purchased brand new or second-hand, you can still claim that under the instant asset write-off, and that will apply. So if you've purchased assets already in the year, unfortunately, you do miss out on this benefit. But it's really looking on assets that are purchased and installed between the dates when it was announced, which was the 12th of March, and the end of the financial year, being the 30th of June. Now, moving forward, so it's still on the taxation benefits and still on depreciation, is that there's also been a 50% increase to the deductions available on purchased assets, again, between the same dates that I mentioned before. So this is on top of the standard straight line rate of 30%, and essentially that takes your total effective depreciation rate on assets. So it might have been an asset purchased above that instant asset write-off threshold. So if it's, for example, valued at $1 million, well, you can write off an effective 65% of that in this current financial year. And how that looks moving forward, whether or not they're going to extend that benefit out for business, is yet to be seen. And when it is seen, obviously CCIQ will report on that and we will keep you in the loop. But again, I just want to stress when we're talking about these tax benefits, speak to your accountant. Your accountant will know if it will benefit your business and how it can benefit your business. Because obviously the benefit being that you can reduce your taxable income during the financial year. So we won't hope on that for too long. So we'll move on. So I think it was 2 weeks ago now, the RBA had an emergency meeting as well. So they have called for an emergency cash rate reduction, and there's also been a push for sort of unconventional quantitative easing, and what that essentially means, again, I'm not going to harp on the detail for that. I think a lot of the information gets lost in the detail, but it's essentially just trying to boost liquidity in the financial system to get, so banks have access to loanable funds, which they can then safely, obviously, invest in businesses when businesses need those loans. So the first one here, so the cash rate. So the cash rate was reduced by another 0.25%, which takes the current effective cash rate to 25 basis points. So essentially through one way or another, and I try to keep this as simple as possible, so it is a very, very simple this explanation, but in one way or another, the cash rate does influence the cost of the access to funds for banks. So what you'll essentially see in this case is as the costs come down for banks, you would hope that the cost would come down for business customers such as yourselves. So if you have any loans existing with large or small banks or non-banks, talk to your lending manager. And if you don't have a lending manager, it might be your finance broker. Talk to them, see if they can help your business, because at times like these, when the rates come down, banks aren't in the game to lose money. They're not in the game to lose money. So if you're facing financial stress, it is imperative that you reach out and see if they can help you out. And that might be by, I think we've seen a couple of banks putting freezes on business loans, but it might also be a case where they can bring your interest rate down as well. So again, I'd urge you to reach out to your professional service providers in that case. And again, so you can see there, so I've also listed the quantitative easing as well. So essentially it's just, in total, it's a $105 billion injection into the financial system. And again, I'll keep it as simple as possible. I think it gets lost in the details sometimes, but it's, like I said, it's essentially just providing a source of liquid funds for banks, especially non-banks in this case, because there was also a push by the federal government to inject some money in there as well into your smaller lenders to increase competition. But as I mentioned, when the liquidity increases, banks have more access to loanable funds, and obviously in that case, you'd hope they'd be more willing to loan out to existing bank customers. And on the topic of that conversation, I was really, really pleased to read it yesterday, is that there's also been a reduction in sort of financial red tape, or the red tape surrounding that space. So essentially how this benefits your business is that there's been a reduction in the capital adequacy requirements, and there's also been a reduction in lending standards for existing bank customers. So again, I'd urge you, so if you are facing financial stress and you are facing the situation where your working capital is drying up, reach out to some of these lenders, or reach out to your professional service providers. See how implementing those services in your business can help you through these times. Because again, I just want to stress that no business is in the game for losing money, and banks are included in that. So wherever they can help, I'm sure they will. So we'll move forward. So as far as the local government, now I haven't included any specific slides here. It's actually been a very interesting topic of discussion over the past couple of weeks, especially, but essentially we did see that the Brisbane City Council is putting out, so I'll stick to Brisbane. Brisbane's what I know. I'm sure a lot of your local chambers will list what your local government is doing, if it can do anything. So I know that the Brisbane City Council has put out sort of fees, levies, charges reductions, obviously to flow through to businesses there. But essentially we are coming up to local elections. So what this means during this time is that the local councils actually put into what's called caretaker mode. And essentially what this means, it just gives them limited power on what measures they can implement for small businesses in case obviously leadership does change hand and they're obviously stuck with the material change which was implemented. So as far as what changes will be implemented, we are keeping an ear to the ground in this case. But like I said, stay in touch with CCIQ and keep up to date with your local chambers as well. Your local chambers will be listing, I would hope, will be listing all of your local council stimulus being made available. So that's all from my end regarding the stimulus, guys. And I just want to, ladies and gentlemen, sorry, I just want to emphasize that anything that comes through my advocacy team or the team at CCIQ is around it. we are around it. So we are watching the news. I've had the TV in front of me, in front of my computer while I'm working. Anything that comes through, be it live, be it lagged from previous day through media statements, we are aware of it and we will summarize it so it's readable. A lot of this stuff gets lost in the information, and that's what my team's here to do, break it down and obviously provide it in a digestible format, which I've, fingers crossed, I've been able to do for you this morning. So without further ado, guys, I think I'll jump onto some questions. Now, apologies if my eyes are skipping all over the screen, but I'm just going to refer to the bottom here. Let me just pull it up. Okay, I'm just scrolling up to the top. There's quite a few questions. Sorry, guys, bear with me. So I've got the first question here, and there might have been some questions. Sorry, I'm just not sure where it separates from the previous section, but it says, "Hi, Jack. Do we pay the tax on our IAS as normal and then have it refunded?" So yes, so again, everything is treated. So with the tax, with the withholdings, it's treated automatically by the ATO. So when you make your business activity statement, and there will be contacts made available, but all of that stuff is looked after automatically. So that refund will be made automatically. So I'm just going to move down the list here. So there's a second question here. So it says, if a small business owner employs contracts only on an ABN, will they be entitled to the minimum PAYG cash flow injection? Now that's actually a really fantastic question. So I imagine in that case, so you contract workers. Now in this case, if those contract workers are let off, I would imagine that the responsibility does fall onto them, as Minister Fentiman mentioned earlier. So there is Centrelink benefits being made available for those sole traders. So if they are found without work, or they are found with a significant reduction in business, they have access to adequate support. So I'm just going to move down the list. So there's a second question here. So it says, are owner operators classed as staff and therefore as employing businesses? I pay myself a wage, but don't know if this makes me eligible for the $10,000 payments. I have no other staff. So I think this question really comes down to how you treat your income. So whether or not you do withhold, or whether or not the payments are made to yourself via PAYG, or whether or not you take a director's credit, be it a dividend at the end of the financial year. It's a very interesting question, and one which I might take offline. I'm actually going to chase that up and see how that's worked exactly. But how I would imagine it works, if you are a small business and you pay yourself a wage via PAYG, well, then I don't see any reason why you wouldn't be included in that PAYG assistance. So there's another question here. So it says, is the cash flow stimulus of a minimum $20,000 a cash injection or a credit? And this is a fantastic question, and one which I was following up last night. Now, at the time being, I believe it is a cash flow injection via a credit, but how that is treated as far as how those credits are worked, whether or not it reaches your bank account, whether or not it reaches your ATO portal, is another question which is yet to be cleared up, and one which I'll be clearing up today as a priority. So again, a lot of this information will be summarized on our website. So please, if there's any questions which I can't answer today, stay on top of the CCIQ website, and there's a specific link there for stimulus packages being made available for small and medium-sized businesses, be it by the state government or the federal government. So moving forward now, so it says, is there a $250,000 loan offered from state government and additional $250,000 loan from federal government? So we'll break that down into two parts. Obviously, the first part there is definitely going to be a concessional loan made available by the state government, and that is up to $250,000. And yes, there is an additional availability of loans, but it's not provided by the federal government per se. It is provided by non-bank small lenders, and that will be for access to further funds. If you have applied for the state government and you need more, you will be able to approach non-bank small lenders for additional working capital assistance up to that $250,000 limit as well. But again, I just want to specify that it's not being provided by the federal government. It's more so a guarantee being provided by the government to encourage those smaller banks to lend to their customers. So I hope I've answered that as best I can. So it says, is 20,000, so is the cash flow injection, cash payments meant to be used for continuing to pay casual staff, whether or not they are actually working? So again, that is the purpose of it. So reading through the purpose, it is purposed with essentially allowing you to retain your staff. Because as I mentioned at the start, the small business, our staff are our family. So where we can avoid laying them off, that's what we're going to do, and that's what the federal government is targeting. But I just want to reiterate, as far as the treatment of that the $20,000 to $100,000 credit, how that is exactly treated is yet to be clarified. And as soon as it is, let me assure you, as soon as it is, we will keep you in the loop. So, ladies and gentlemen, that will have to wrap up the questions. Again, I appreciate everyone who's participated in that, and if there's any other questions you have that I wasn't able to get through, I'm sure I can take those offline. And again, if a lot of those questions might actually already be answered on our CCIQ website. So if you haven't already, please jump onto our website. And if there's any specific information you need, call one of our hotline support staff. And if it's not our hotline support, as Minister Fentiman mentioned earlier, the state government also has a hotline there. So I would urge you to use those resources that are available. So we'll move forward. So again, as I mentioned, so get free business support with CCIQ. So I'll just read through. So to help businesses get through this tough time, we are offering a limited time basic membership for those that are not already members. So included in this membership, you'll get access to industrial relations assistance when you need it, and you'll also get marketing insights and cost-saving tips on how to get the most out of the worst trading conditions since the GFC. And I want to emphasize that even before this whole coronavirus, we did have reports from our Pulse survey that businesses were already suffering. I think it's easy to forget that we did have the bushfires during the Christmas period as well. So this has just been blow after blow, and obviously we have seen that. And to compensate for that, we are offering this support, because without business, the simple fact remains that without small businesses, Queensland stops. Small businesses is such a major part of our economy that if they stop being able to produce effectively, or if they have to close their doors, if they have to lay off staff, Queensland grinds to a halt. And that's exactly what we're trying to prevent here. And I'm sure that's exactly what the federal and state government are going to be collaborating with us to do, especially the state government. So I would urge you, sign up for the essential subscription before the 31st of March. So do it now, do it after this webinar, go onto our website and sign up, please. So that you will pay nothing for 12 months. And you'll obviously get access to all of that, the support that you need. And let me just emphasize as well, so the government hotline, you can contact us, but there is also that government hotline that Minister Fentiman mentioned earlier this morning, and that number was 1300 654 687. So we will obviously, this is one webinar of a series of webinars. The second webinar will be surrounding, is your business ready or prepared for remote working? And you'll see, if anyone's following the webinar, I've got a very big smile on my face, because our office probably wasn't. It was very, very sudden. We were sort of thrown into the deep end saying, look, we've got to trial this. These are unprecedented times. If we don't trial this remote working now and something pops up in the future where we have to remote learn, that's what we're going to have to do. So we've noticed that, and I'm sure, which we'll be touching in the webinar, you can learn from our mistakes, believe me. So we'll be talking from everything from IT hardware, software audits, internet and phone access, obviously accessing the network remotely, which has been a big benefit for us. So if you don't have access to remote networking, I'd definitely encourage that. And obviously ensuring that the adequate security protections exist in your business as well. And then moving forward in the first day of the next month, 1st of April, we will, oops, sorry, I've skipped forward here, I'll skip back. We will also be hosting a webinar, which is how to reduce your operating costs during these uncertain times. So we know that there's a lot of levers to pull in your business, and unfortunately staff is one of those levers, but other levers are sort of basic costs and basic cash flow strategies. You know, whether it's becoming more efficient in your business or sort of being more sustainable or cutting on those unnecessary expenses. So the specific topics which will be discussed will be basic cost control, as I mentioned, how to manage your loans and overdraft facilities. And again, I would urge you, if you have a business manager, if it's not a business manager, your finance assistant or broker, get in contact, please. And obviously talking about how new tax breaks for Queensland businesses will work and how that will benefit you. So like I said, a lot of this information is just flying in. It's flying in from all directions, and that's what we're here for. We're trying to break that down, disaggregate it, and be able to provide that information in a more digestible format. So again, any sort of topics which I was a little bit cloudy about today, that will be discussed in more detail as that detail comes out, obviously the next webinar. And obviously, lastly, is coronavirus-related government grants and assistance. So it is a moving feast. Again, if I pull my crystal ball out and wave my hands over it, do I think we've seen the end of all the stimulus measures which are being implemented? No, I absolutely don't think we have. The federal government, the state government, they're still sitting in their parliaments, in their relative parliaments, and they're still discussing on what further stimulus they can push out to benefit the small business community. Because like I said, simple fact remains, and everyone knows it, if the private sector businesses grind to a halt, so does the economy. And that is exactly what we're trying to avoid in this case. So ladies and gentlemen, some really key contact information here, just as the final slide. So we have the employer hotline. So any sort of HR advice or employment advice in these uncertain times with your staff, reach out. We have a hotline, we have an email there, reach out in whichever format. Obviously my team, the CCIQ and CCIQ Advocacy and Policy, anything which you think will benefit your business, which hasn't been discussed, please get in contact. Please get in contact. And if you haven't already, I would also urge you to jump onto our website and voice your opinion. We have surveys out, we have a petition out at the moment for more action by the state government. If you haven't already participated in these, please do so. Please do so. That's what we do. We provide avenues for your business, for your voice to be heard. And obviously, the more people we have responding, the stronger our voice and the more likely we are to be heard. And I think that's already been seen this morning, where we were able to host the Honourable Shannon Fentiman on our webinar this morning. Great honour. And any further, so again, regarding that free membership advice, jump onto our membership inquiries. So we've got an email there, we have a phone number, and obviously on our website, a lot of the details will be provided as well. So ladies and gentlemen, I think I've arrived just under time, which is very out of character for me. I sort of blow out the time limit. So I think I've done quite well in that space. And please, like I said, any other further questions, please email it through. Please email it through and let your voice be heard. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I'll wrap that up now. I'll stop sharing my screen, and I wish you all the best. Stay safe, stay hygienic as well with the physical distancing, and look after your business community. Look after your friends and family. It's really important that we look after our mental health in these uncertain times. So thanks again. I appreciate your time.